Something like that, yeah.
All right,
Wednesday, October 4th. That's right.
Shh, we're gone. Good evening. It is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023, and coming to you from the Lonely Tree Media headquarters in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Slam Sports Show. Yeah, so we got some stuff to talk about today. We're getting into the heat of where everything comes together, where all the sports come together. My name is David Lamm. I'm your host. With me is my son Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Baca. Thank you very much.
I'm getting ahead of myself already because there's so much stuff going on, and we're not even into all of the stuff going on yet. But
that's well said.
we're not even full on into it. But we have Major League Baseball playoffs, the wild card series, game twos even today, right? Game ones were yesterday. Game twos are today. We've got the WNBA playoffs starting this Sunday. We've got college football in full swing. The conference schedule's in full swing. Week 5. What are we? Week 6? Week 6?
College football?
Yeah.
Week 6
officially.
Technically week 7.
Right. Because we had week 0, right?
This is week 6.
Week 6. So it was week 6 this week coming up. So everyone's pretty much played 5 games except you know the occasional team. Anyway, and then the NFL, which is week 4. They're always one game behind, right? We're going to talk about week 4. So they're going to be on week 5 this week. Oh my gosh, it's going on. NHL has started preseason. The NBA, they're in camp already. They're going to start preseason games shortly. Next week. I think it's next week. Anyway, it's all going to come to a head here in about 20 days or so, where you're going to have NBA games that count. You're going to have NHL games that count. You're going to have Major League Baseball games in the playoffs. We're going to have NFL. We're going to have college football. The WNBA takes like 7 days between games to play the finals. I don't know why. And Major League Soccer, we haven't talked about that almost all season long. And the Timbers are back in the playoff hunt like they do every year at the end of the season. Literally just 3 points out of second place in the Western Conference.
So close.
And yet they're in 7th place. So that tells you the jumble that is the playoffs. Anyway, all that stuff is coming. And in next week, it's going to next couple of weeks, it's going to come to a head. And we're going to have a bazillion things to talk about. This week, we're going to try and keep it short, although I haven't done that already. I have a trivia question for you.
Let's hear it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
We'll do the answer at the end, so don't answer. But here's the question. Okay. Major League Baseball playoffs started, right? Wild card games wild card series are in full swing.
Okay.
The question is, only one team. No, that's not true. Let's back up. I want you to. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm trying to phrase the question the right way, and I didn't write it down.
Okay.
What's the record? I don't want to say it. What's the record for the fewest amount of regular season wins for a team that won the World Series?
Okay.
That's what the question I wanted to ask. So, what's the record for fewest regular season wins for a team that went on to win? Yeah, they made the playoffs. They went on to win the World Series. What's the record? So they play 162 regular season games. So there's that. Anyway, we'll answer it at the end. Let's talk about Major League Baseball playoffs real quick because we can. The Texas Rangers ousted the Rays. The Rays won 99 regular season games. 99 is a lot.
Yeah.
But the Texas Rangers knocked them right out in 2 games. The Rays knocked themselves out of game 1 with a 4-0 loss, and they had 4 errors in that game, and they looked terrible. And then the Rangers just bombed them 7-1 in game 2 today. So the Rays are out already. One of the top 4 teams in the league are out. And the Rangers are on. If you like chaos, that's a big deal, right? Minnesota has advanced. Minnesota yesterday won the first game. They won 3-1. It was the first win in a playoff game since 2004. They had lost 18 straight playoff games. It was the record. Yeah, so there's a first playoff game win in 19 years. And
Well,
not only did they win yesterday, they won today, and they're moving on already. So the Twins are moved into the divisional series with their win over the Blue Jays. So I know, right? I mean, it's pretty exciting. I don't know. The Phillies, the Diamondbacks have just completed a sweep of the Brewers.
just now, yeah.
Yeah, they're 5-2 in game two. The Brewers had won 92 games. The Diamondbacks have won 84. They were only 6 games above 500, right? They're the number 6 seed in this playoffs for the National League, and they won 2 games in a row, and they're moving on. So there's that, and then the Phillies are ahead 7-0 on the Marlins. They won game 1 yesterday, so this would be a sweep too. It's middle of the 7th inning. It doesn't look like the Marlins are going to be able to come back from that. So they'll move along. But the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, definitely 2 teams not supposed to move forward, and now they are. What the big deal is, once you get in, you're in. You're in the playoffs. Doesn't matter what your record was in the regular season. It doesn't matter now. You just need to win 2 of 3 games in the wild card, and you move along, which makes it pretty exciting. So, did you watch any baseball? That's my question. Baseball's boring.
No.
I get it. Okay, all right. I didn't think you did, but I was just asking.
I just didn't have time for it. I mean,
No.
most of it's on. I mean, hey, it doesn't move the needle a ton for me. Early baseball. Now, if I look at the score and it's 3-3, top of the 9th, I might turn on the TV, right? Or if it's, close games. But I mean, the Phillies are up 7-0 on the Marlins. What is my incentive to watch this game?
Nothing.
The Rangers beat the Rays 7-1.
Yeah.
What are my 2 of the 4 games are blowouts. Yeah, I consider that a blowout. 7-0, 7-1, I consider a blowout.
It is.
It might not be like historically a blowout, or maybe not historically, recently a blowout, because recently you've been getting games that are like 23-2.
Yeah, there's been a lot of scoring.
A lot of scoring lately. It's because the balls are juiced.
Maybe.
But that's another topic for another day.
Balls are bats.
No,
I'm not sure.
I haven't been able to tune into that many of them, so I try and catch ones that are interesting or impactful. Like I watched a couple of the elimination games from the playoffs the other day. I watched like the Mariners game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I try and keep my eyes on those, but elsewise, like this sort of stuff, I'll tune in more during the actual playoffs.
I'll tell you the problem I have with playoff baseball is that it takes too long. Remember that we're trying to hurry the games along with a pitch clock, right? Which this year apparently it did.
Apparently it was pretty successful. Yeah.
The time is down. Stolen bases were up. Scoring was also up, and still managed to keep the game down, which is great for fans because I mean, okay, let's be honest. A watch at home fan of baseball is happy the games are shorter. But if you go to the baseball game, I'm not necessarily happy it's shorter because I'm paying for it at that point, right? And if I bought a ticket to it, I want it to last, not necessarily 5 hours, but I extra innings would be great because it's free baseball at that point. But
the problem with free baseball is what? They stopped selling alcohol after the 7th.
That's true.
So if a game goes 18 freaking
but
innings, not only did you have time to get drunk, sober up, run to the 7-Eleven, get drunk again, and sober up again before it's over, and it's still 1-1.
Well, if your whole point is that you're just trying to get drunk during the baseball game, you should be at home. But
my point is that going to the baseball game is a big experience, right? And part of that big experience, because it is such a dry piece of bread to eat, is you need a little fluid.
A little liquid.
You need a little liquid to make it a little better.
To help it go down.
Right. Yeah, unless the game is like just absolute, the bats are booming. Like unless it is one of those like 23-15 games,
right.
That's super exciting. You don't need any extra juice. You feel pretty jacked up because you probably caught 4 foul balls and 2 home runs in the process.
So here's the question: baseball scoring. I mean, these games so the games today, notwithstanding, 7-0 Phillies, 7-1 Texas, but 5-2 Arizona. Yesterday it was 6-5 or 6-4. That was a good game. But it has scoring in other sports marred baseball. You know what I'm saying? So like all the rules in the NFL that make it more conducive to score. Oh, you can't hit the quarterback here or there. Everything against the defense is a first down. Those things that make it more conducive for offenses to score. Has that ruined baseball? Because you expect baseball to be 21-14, and not 1-0 like a classic pitcher's duel. I mean, if you're a purist of baseball, you're going to like that. But if you're
Right.
not, if you're a football fan who casually watches baseball, you're going to go, this is boring. Just like soccer,
Right.
right?
So I
Um,
think the goal of baseball right now is to attract new fans. Football has no problem attracting new fans. Basketball has no problem attracting new fans. People who are engaging in with those leagues, there's a lot of young people involved. You look around a baseball game and you see a lot of kids brought by their parents, and not that the parents aren't taking them to baseball or basketball games and stuff, but like you also see like large pods of older people,
yeah,
watching baseball because they've had season tickets for 30 years. Baseball isn't growing into the youth space without it being, I'm not going to say relevant, but without it being engaging
right.
to today's market. Everything's a little faster. You get everything a little faster. Everything was slower. If you wanted to know a piece of information 40 years ago, you had to work to find it out.
Okay. So what is it?
You had to go to a library. You had to do everything. So it's not just about attention spans are shorter. It's about the service is faster. Everything is faster now. So baseball has to kind of adapt to that to keep new members engaged. Old members don't really care about it that much.
Which they are, I think. Attention spans are shorter.
They are.
Things are faster.
Yeah, that's natural. I mean, if you ask somebody in the 1940s, or somebody born in the 1880s, how they felt about attention spans in the 1940s, they'd be like, ugh.
Right.
It's for kids all over the place.
And it's always that the newer generation that goes, oh, those kids, right?
Those kids.
So when I was a kid, and you needed information, right? There was no internet.
Can
right?
I guess your process of just like figuring it out?
If you needed information on something, guess what? You're going to go to a library, or
you're going to ask someone first.
You're going to ask, well,
whoever's
ask your parents.
Nearest, you will ask
somebody
them.
older if you needed something that was historical.
They don't know.
Right. And then you're going to go to a library. Or you're going to go,
library.
if you had an encyclopedia at home, that was great if it was current.
If it was current.
Right. Because if it was something that happened, 2 weeks ago, you probably don't have that because you bought your encyclopedia, 3 years ago.
I would say here it is in like 1986, and you have that 1980 encyclopedia,
and then
6 years of important information,
and then CNN comes on all of a sudden, circa 1980, 81, right? And it's round the clock news, and it's instant information, right? Before internet, really, because internet's not prevalent at this point. You still have just instant information though. You could watch the news as it unfolds, literally right now.
I'm gonna throw something at you there though.
Yeah.
It's not just about like the intake of like worldly information, like current events and stuff. Like if you wanted to know how to aerate a lawn,
yes, I agree.
You can find out now super fast.
Yeah.
And CNN wasn't telling you that.
No, but you'd have to, like I said, you'd have to look that up in an encyclopedia or somewhere, right?
Or
because
you'd
there's
ask
no other way.
Your dad would say, I don't know, they own a landscaping business down the street. Go ask them.
Call a lawn service, yeah.
Call a lawn service. See if they'll tell you, right?
Yeah, there was no other way. I mean, and that's this is going to sound like an old person take, but people, kids today don't understand not being able to just call someone and say, hey, where are you? Because you'd call their house to see if you could come over to go do whatever, right? Hey, we're going to come over and play wiffle ball. No, because they're not home. They don't answer their phone. So you either take a chance that they're outside doing something, not near the phone, didn't hear it, couldn't get to it, or they're not home, right? And you don't know that. So either you ride your bike over there. This is when I was like 12. You ride your bike over there, right? And they're not home, or they are, and you get lucky. You know what I mean? There's that. You just didn't have that instant feedback of, hey, I can just call and say, hey, where are you? That didn't happen. There was no chance of that. And that kind of information, that instant feedback is what people are used to now, is that I can instantly know where all of my friends are, no matter where they are. And I can keep tabs of not just that, but hey, yeah, what's the, correct way to slice a peach open, right?
Right.
And I know it immediately.
How do I hit an avocado?
Yeah,
like,
right. And it's immediate. And and I get it. And that's my question is, how does baseball stay that relevant? Because baseball is traditional. It's classic. They're speeding up the game. Great. It helps a little, but it's still not going to be relevant unless you make it relevant. How do you make baseball more relevant so that younger people will like to watch it?
Younger people don't mind settling in 3 hours to watch a football game. Why is it so much worse to watch a 3.5-hour baseball game? Well, it has to do with the content. Correct. How good is the content within the 3 hours? The 3.5 hours I'm going to spend. So that's where baseball's getting into more hits. But I'll tell you right now, I'm looking at their hit totals for the year, 22,438. All right. 2 years ago, they had 22,002. 2 years before that, they had 23,463.
Right.
And then from 01 to 2008, it was higher every year. So the pitch clock hasn't affected everyone. The worry was that pitchers wouldn't have time to prepare. They'd throw more reckless pitches and they'd get more hits off of them. That didn't happen. So that's not true. I haven't looked to see how many strikeouts there were this year in total. I guarantee you that's down. So the question is, if walks are way up and hits are about average, then that's kind of like how that worked out. Pitchers are still struggling with it, but I feel like it made the game more engaging this year a little bit. It didn't cut off that much time. Like, you only lost like 20 minutes off the average game. But that's a lot. It felt like when you're watching consistent pitches, it feels like you don't have time. Like, I used to have time to, he throws a pitch, I'm going to grab something to drink. You can't really do that anymore.
Right.
And you'll lean out from the fridge to watch him throw the next one, and then you'll go back to what you were doing. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. So now you kind of stay engaged for an inning, and then you do your whatever you got to do at the half, in between innings. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I think it worked out well this year.
What I was gonna say earlier was the thing. I know, and then we got sidetracked. The thing I don't like about playoff baseball, as opposed to regular season baseball, is that when playoff baseball happens, it becomes this super important. Every pitch is important. Every at bat is important. They take more time doing it, and there's more pitching changes. That they stop the game because this guy's thrown 3 innings, but the bases are loaded. I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to go throw this guy for to get the last 2 outs of this inning, and then I'm going to throw another guy next inning, which means I got a new pitcher. You know what I mean? And then we got to start, and they pitching change. The Brewers Diamondbacks went through 5 pitchers each in the game today. Just saying, 5 pitchers is a lot. I mean, it's not a normal amount of pitchers. The Blue Jays and Twins, who scored a whopping 2 runs total, right, went through 11 pitchers total, right? There were 4 players on the Twins who got a hold, which is an official stat now, right? Holding the lead. Right. So there are 4 guys who came in through a third, 2/3, 1 and 1 inning to get holds before the closer came in. And have you seen Duran? For the Twins, Johan, it's Johan, I think. Duran. The guy throws like 103, 104 on a regular basis, and it's just ridiculous fast. And then he'll throw an off-speed pitch that's 90, and it makes them look stupid at the plate. The speed is ridiculously fast. I watched him pitch yesterday as a closer to get the save, and it was just, it was 102, 103. I'm like, this is stupid fast. Anyway, he's got 2 saves in 2 games for the Twins, and they're moving on. But anyway, there's pinch hitting, and then there's substitutions, and then there's extra pitchers, and that whole thing takes longer. Playoff baseball just takes so much longer. I wish it would be quicker. I get why they do it, but it's still, if you're going to throw 10 pitchers and you're going to lose 7-0, it doesn't really matter, right? But anyway, that's baseball. So I like baseball. I like baseball. I do. I like watching baseball. I like baseball highlights. I like being at a baseball game. I do not like watching it on TV. I think it's terrible. It's a terrible product on TV. No matter what you do. There's way too much time to talk about this batter and how he hits 341 against left-handers on Thursday night games on the road. That doesn't matter. That stat is irrelevant. I think also it's when you're in person, though, it's because everything is made for TV nowadays, because ad revenue exists on TV, not in the stadium. That slows down the stadium. Your time in between innings feels like a long time because there's a big commercial break happening. Dictated by the commercial. It's like that
Yeah,
guy, the guy that comes on the college football field and says,
with
"Hey,
the red
there's
thing, right?
2 minutes 30," and you're like,
2 minutes
"What?
30.
Why is it so long?"
Why are we
Anyway,
taking? I thought this was just a timeout.
I hate that guy.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that guy. No one likes that guy.
nobody likes that guy because his number is way too big every time he comes out. Right? The number is way too big. He doesn't come out and say like 15 seconds. No, he just comes out and there's like 4 minutes. You're like, what? Why do we gotta wait 4 minutes? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
I always watch for him, and as soon as I see him, I go, "Well, might as well sit down."
Yeah, right. I mean, now's the time to go to the bathroom. Um, Philly's still ahead 7-0, top of the eighth. Marlins coming to bat, but they've only got 3 hits all game, and so I'm not expecting anything from the Marlins. They're going to go away quietly, and we'll move on to divisional series, which will start. When does the divisional series start? Saturday. Twins Astros already, right? That's going to be a good series. Diamondbacks Dodgers. They're in the same division. And then Rangers Orioles. The Orioles have won 101 games this year. And then the winner of the other series will play the Braves. That's probably going to be the Phillies. So Phillies and Braves are in the same division too. Braves are probably the best team in baseball. But 104 games they won. The Orioles won 101, and the Dodgers won 100. So I mean they're not like far and away, but it felt like Atlanta was the best team by far this year. I don't know why, but it's weird, huh? So,
yeah, a little strange.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Anyway, Saturday the 7th. So this coming Saturday will be the start of the divisional series. So look forward to that. WNBA is in the playoffs also. Liberty and the Aces are going to play in the finals. The Liberty beat the Sun 87-84 on Sunday to secure their spot, win that series 3-1. Sunday the 8th, Liberty at the Aces in Las Vegas. The 2 best teams in the league. The 2 best players in the league who were neck and neck for the MVP this year, Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson. Going to be a good series. Those 2 teams played 5 times this year, I want to say, and it's been good. I mean, it's been the Liberty have the advantage, like 3-2, but the games were blowouts, like either direction, which is kind of weird. Anyway, I guess we'll know more as we go, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe in the Aces. So
really,
I believe they'll crumble against the
yeah,
against the Liberty. But that's also because I'm rooting for the Liberty in this one. So a little
well,
biased.
that's true. I mean, we got a duck bias going on. I think that the Aces are a one team kind of wonder. And Kelsey Plum's good. Don't get me wrong, but Asia Wilson runs everything. If it doesn't go through her, I mean, 22.8 points per game, 9.5 rebounds. I get it. But the Liberty have many more players. Jonquel Jones, Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu. They've got some players. Courtney Vandersloot. I believe they have more as a team. And the size of the Liberty is going to be a trouble for the Aces, I think. Just in general. But who knows? We're going to find out. Las Vegas is a 4.5-point favorite to start game 1. 12 o'clock, noon on ABC on Sunday, in case you're watching. There you go. Yeah, right? I mean, it's going to be exciting. Let's go to the Pac-12 and what happened in college football this week. We're moving along pretty good. That's actually pretty good timing, which is kind of amazing. The Oregon Ducks shook off a sluggish start, let's say, against Stanford. They were behind 6-0. 2 field goals on Stanford's first 2 possessions led to a 6-0 game, and Oregon went 3 and out on their first possession. Oregon kind of this was a Tyler Shook kind of a look from the Stanford quarterback too. He ran, and it made it hard on Oregon's defense. I think they struggle a little bit with a running quarterback who can actually not just scramble but run forward, and so that made a little bit of a struggle right off the bat. Good news is they kept him out of the end zone, and then Oregon's offense woke up. Middle second quarter, scored a couple touchdowns. Bo Nix threw for 4 touchdown passes in the second half. And it was not threw. He threw for 2. Wait, is that right? He threw for 4. He threw for 4. Yeah, he threw for 4 in the second half. Yeah, and they just kind of ran away with it at the end. It was 42-6, but it was a struggle for a while, and it looked. Yeah, did you feel ugly after like 15 minutes at the end of the first quarter? You're like me, and you're going, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about all of the times that Stanford has done exactly that and just tried to run the ball down your throat and kill a whole half on a single drive.
Right.
This isn't the first time they've done it. It probably won't be the last time they try and do it. So I was thinking about that when all that happened. I was like, they're gonna do this again. And after they came out and started doing it in the first drive, I said out loud to Cassie, I was watching the game with Cassie, I said, they have got to score on their first possession and keep pace. And then they came, but we held them to 3, and then we come out and we didn't score. And I was like, damn it. And then we gave the ball back, and they burned like another 7 or 8 minutes. And I was like, oh. And then we got the ball back, and we didn't score again. I'm like,
right.
Oh, okay, this is gonna be a rough day.
It's a struggle. Yeah,
it was a struggle. But the one difference between now and previous times is those Toby Gerhart, days when they were just grinding, is
right.
they were scoring at the end of it. They
right.
would march down the field all the way into the end zone
right.
and burn 10 minutes along the way. This time they weren't getting touchdowns, so you
right.
had like a slight bit of hope. And then the moment we scored our first one, I was like, oh,
yeah,
the lid's about to come off.
Yep, that's exactly what I said. The minute they scored the first one, I was like, okay, now they found a rhythm. Got to get the ball back. They did, and then it was away we go. Once the defense settled, and the defense wasn't terrible, like I'm saying, it just they gave up a lot of what it seemed like easy rushing yards, and then they didn't all of a sudden because Justin Lamson ran the ball 22 times, 22 carries for Stanford as quarterback, but only 32 yards. But he had a long of 12, and in the first quarter he looked like he was running at will, and then all of a sudden he wasn't.
And then all of a sudden he was.
Yeah, they just shut it down, and I was like, okay. So Stanford ended with 89 yards rushing on 46 carries. That's 1.9 yards per carry and no touchdowns, which is exactly what you want. It just seemed like the first quarter was not that. It was the opposite of that. And, it was really confusing. Oregon's defense just didn't look great. I mean, but then all of a sudden they just said, okay, it's time for us to win this game, and they did. 5 sacks. Justin Lamson did have a fumble. He didn't lose it, but, they forced the fumble. It was, Camden Lewis missed that field goal at the end of the first half. That was kind of frustrating too, when it was 14-6, and I was like, can't miss field goals.
But at least we knew we were getting the ball back right away.
It's true, but you felt like, okay, we're going to go in 17-6, blah 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 blah. Anyway,
it's still a 1-score game we went in. Yeah,
it was. There was a lot of tense moments until
it stressed me out for 20 minutes of gameplay.
I feel like I was still kind of stressed going into the third quarter, and I was like, okay, we need to take the ball down, we need to score, and blah 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 blah, and they did. And then it was like, okay, now I feel better. It's 21-6, blah 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 blah. I don't know. It just was. It was. I had anxiety all day. Troy Franklin, 7 catches, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is Troy Franklin an All-American? He's one of the best receivers I've seen Oregon have in a long time.
Yeah, no, he's definitely up there on most people's lists in terms of top receivers. He's got speed, he's got size. I didn't realize he had as much street cred as he does. I guess he's number 9th on yards. So that's not bad at all. Like, I mean, you're top 10 on yards. He's number 3 in terms of touchdowns. He's got a 72-yarder to his name this season.
Right.
He's done it all on 32 receptions, which puts him in the top, he's number 17, tied for 17th in terms of reception. So, yeah, he's having a big year for sure, and he's on everyone's watch list.
Yeah. And Jordan James, as a backup to Bucky Irving, 6 carries, 88 yards, 14.7 yards per carry. Yeah, one of them was for 37 yards. Okay, we can take that one out, and you still have 41 yards on 5 carries. Still 8 yards a carry. It's not like he is amazing when he comes in. That is like the best backup running back I've ever seen, because Bucky Irving gets those hard yards. He averaged almost 7 yards a carry in this game. Both of them got 88 yards in this game and 1 touchdown.
Right.
Yeah. The Oregon running game, when it's working, and it didn't start working until the second quarter, but when it's working, is amazing. And it controls the game, and it opens up everything for Bo Nix and Troy Franklin and Terrence Ferguson, who I love at tight end, by the way.
Terrence Ferguson might be, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but Terrence Ferguson might be my favorite tight end.
Yeah.
That one of my favorite tight ends that Oregon's ever had.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's really good.
He's big and strong, and I like that. I mean, I like that.
He never gets stopped. Well, sometimes he gets stopped right away, but like if he's ever has a chance to like lower his shoulder and go through, he does.
Yeah, I like it. So Oregon wins that game 42-6. They should have. I mean, it was the same score they beat Colorado by. The Ducks are 5-0, 2-0 in the conference. Rated number 9 currently at the moment. We'll talk about that in a minute. How about the Oregon State Beavers, who managed to win on Friday night 21-7 over Utah, a game that I kind of circled as a question mark. You know what I mean? But Utah without Cam Rising has not been offensively any kind of good. But Oregon State did what they needed to do. They didn't look great. Don't get me wrong, offensively, but defensively they did everything they needed to do, and they won a football game that they needed to win. They're 4-1, 1-1 in the Pac-12. Utah also 4-1 now, 1-1. It was a good win for Oregon State. If you're an Oregon State fan, kudos. You got more tough games coming. You're glad you got Utah without Cam Rising. But I don't know when he's coming back, because that's been the question. He's warmed up for the last 2 games. Like before the game, he's been out there warming up, but he hasn't played. So I don't know. I don't know where to put Utah now. That's a good question, right?
Yeah, I mean, Utah's kind of all over the place. They just lost their starting defensive end in that game for the rest of the season. He blew out his ACL. So that kind of sucks. They were super shorthanded. So you kind of want to say, all right, well, maybe they're not that bad. They need to get their people back. But also, you kind of still have to field a competent team, and that quarterback is not good.
Nate Johnson
is a fantastic runner. He is an awful quarterback. And the backup, Bryson Barnes, when they finally put him in, was great until an Oregon State player popped him illegally, and he was out for the rest of the game.
That happens.
So it's like, that's so brutal. There were some question marks in this game, though. Like, Oregon State put in Aiden Childs for a single drive in the middle of the game.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
I have no clue why. But they were saying on the broadcast that they knew that was going to happen. That was part of their game plan. But I'm like, why?
I don't know.
Why is it part of your game plan? DJU, looked better.
Okay.
Better than last week.
Oh, yes.
Looked better than last week.
Yes.
But still
not great.
Not great.
No.
And against a team with as many injuries as they had, he should have carved him up.
You would think so.
But it just didn't quite happen. That was interesting.
1 touchdown, 1 interception, 204 yards. But they try to run the ball exclusively, right? To try and, Martinez is their guy, and I get it. Or, I don't know. Oregon State ran for 131 yards. They threw for 227. They ended up with 358 yards of total offense, total yards. But Utah had 198 because they couldn't do anything in this game. They were just not good. 1.8 yards per rush. That's not going to win you any games. Both teams had 1 turnover, and the time of possession was close. It came down to some key plays that Oregon State made, an interception, that was important, and it just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still haven't. The jury's out on Oregon State. I don't know. They're going to play Cal next week, obviously, and then UCLA, and then Arizona, and then Colorado. Colorado will be a test.
It's a road game, yeah.
It's a road game, but the Cal, UCLA, Arizona, Colorado, Stanford swing. That's 5 games where they could win all 5 of those.
Yeah,
and then be
presumably
9-1 playing Washington at home. We'll see. I mean, we'll know more. I mean, but I hope Oregon State is 10-1 when they play Oregon. I do.
You don't want them to lose a bunch. You want them to be decent. But I mean, I'm over here. I'm looking at UCLA. They have UCLA in 2 weeks. Yeah. UCLA is 3-1.
Yep.
They've only got 1 loss. So they've played one less game, but they've only got 1 loss.
Right.
Cal's running the ball well.
Cal it's
a confusing team.
Yeah, Arizona is also a confusing team.
Right. So Arizona's a confusing team, but Cal's running the ball well.
Yeah.
So I think there's some at Cal and UCLA are slip-up games. I think they'll take at Arizona. But then, over the final 4 weeks of the season, at Colorado versus Washington, at Oregon, with Stanford in there. Yeah, that's tough. But I think that UCLA. So Utah has proven all season that they don't have much of an offense.
No.
So the fact that they didn't have much of an offense this game isn't really a surprise to me. So I need to see them play somebody who does have an offense. That next game would be UCLA.
Yeah.
That's the next one that I have circled for. Okay, let's see how well this defense does against an actual offense, because to this point, the only actual offense they've played was Washington State, and they got lit up.
Right.
So it's still a lot to know.
Washington beat Arizona 31-24 at home. Or no, at Arizona. Sorry, on the road. Washington's 5-0 heading into their bye week before they play Oregon. That's next week. Michael Penix, 363 yards. He's 30 of 40. 363 yards. No touchdowns. No interceptions. They did run for 4 touchdowns, but they only ran for 111 yards rushing. And somebody was saying, "Oh, look, their good news was they had a rushing game." Arizona ran for 110. Washington ran for 111. I mean, it wasn't like you guys were dominant on the ground. You had a Dylan Johnson who ran, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 28 of that was on one play. Anyway,
did you stay up to watch this game?
I did.
I thought that Arizona might do it.
They were close. They were there.
They were close, and the problem was they had that turnover on downs.
Yeah.
After the fumble.
Yeah.
And that's when they blew it, because there it was 31-17, and they get the ball back, and I'm like, they can do this.
Yeah.
And then they turn it over on downs,
yeah,
and then at that point there wasn't enough time left. But yeah, it was. This should make Washington nervous, but not too nervous, because you still have.
I get it.
Michael Penix.
You got guys, but Noah Fafita for Arizona with 3 touchdowns and an interception. Yeah. I mean, they were pretty good. Arizona looked good enough. The rushing game was just good enough to be, to keep them off guard. It was Arizona. Arizona only had 4 guys with rushing stats, only had 6 guys with receiving stats, as opposed to Washington, right? Who has like 10 guys catching a pass and all that. But it just was Arizona kept in the game. They just managed to be there and not. This was a game I thought Washington would just put them away at some point. They never did. And
they stopped. They did the one thing you have to do against Michael Penix, which is stop the big play.
Yep. That's
whatever
correct.
The big play is, stop it. They did give up a 57-yard reception at one point, but stop the big play. Do not let them have consistent 40-yard receptions, big, massive, busted coverages, and things like that. Make them get impatient, going underneath and going slow.
Right.
So that's kind of the goal, because eventually I think that Michael Penix will force something if it's not going fast enough.
Let's talk about the big game of the day for the Pac-12. That was USC 48, Colorado 41 at Colorado. Colorado falls to 3-2 and 2 straight losses, but USC had a pretty good-sized lead and looked like they were going to dominate this football game. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it was 48-21. It was a 27-point lead. And then Colorado scored 3 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
And Omarion Miller, by the way, was amazing in this game. He looked like he could 7 catches, 196 yards, and a touchdown for Colorado. He might be the next star. I don't know where he came from, because he wasn't there before. I mean, he was there obviously, but he wasn't. He was overshadowed by Jimmy Horn and some other guys, and Tyler Hunter, or not Tyler Hunter. Is that right? Did I say that right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds right. I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, that was an amazing game by him. He was like a breakout game. Caleb Williams threw 6 touchdown passes, and that was just enough to win. Colorado came back from that deficit, and it was just the second half was it was 27-14 Colorado in the second half. I didn't come away impressed with USC. Now, obviously needed the poll voters because they moved them down. But it was a win, and it was on the road. So, I mean, you can take that for what it's worth, but USC's defense has something missing. Am I wrong?
It seems like it. It seems like a couple teams have gotten a little too close for comfort. Luckily for them, they have one of the best quarterbacks in college football, so they can kind of skate out of it. But, I mean, really, it just goes to show how quickly it can kind of turn on you, because I'm looking here at it's 41-14, right? USC scores 41-14, and then it's 41-21, and then it's 48-21, and then it's 40, and then it jumps up to 48-25 or whatever.
Yeah.
But then USC throws an interception,
right?
And then they get close on the 34.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, they got hot. You made one mistake.
Yep.
while they got hot, and that's all it took.
That's all it took.
They definitely had to come out and battle their way back from it a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, Colorado needed every bit of clock to get close, and they needed USC to make some mistakes.
It's true. It's true. But the USC, I mean, after USC struggled, I'm going to call it that, against Arizona State, 42-28, and then 48-41 against Colorado, the voters moved them down. I mean, moved them behind Oregon,
Right.
which, is I said that last week, I think.
Right.
I mean, we talked about it. Anyway, I kind of figured that was kind of the thing because Oregon's not struggling, even though they did struggle a little bit against Stanford, but the end result was not a struggle, 42-6. If Oregon had beat Stanford 42-28, yes, we'd be talking about the same thing, and USC would still be ahead of them, but they didn't. USC still has Notre Dame at Notre Dame,
Right.
Utah at home, Washington at home, and at Oregon to play. So there's still 4 ranked teams in the top 20, 3 in the top 10 still to play.
A lot of time left, yeah.
And then a rivalry game against UCLA. You never know how that's going to turn out. So
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
Rivalry.
And who knows? Caleb Williams might come back next year.
And yeah, because he might make more money, right? Is that what the story was? Is that what they said?
Yeah, he came out and said that, or I don't know if he came out and said, but somebody associated with him came out and said that, hey, he can make more money, at USC than playing in the NFL. So his incentive to go to the NFL needs to be team based, not salary based. Going first overall is
Right.
going first overall into who is what he wants more than how much.
And he has like 5 teams that he wants to go to, right? So, but I mean,
Yeah. But one of them's the Giants, so it could happen.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. Anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute.
But yeah, I'm looking over Colorado's drives here, and they had some big plays. He had a 65-yard pass to Omarion Miller, and then the next drive he had a 44-yard pass to Omarion Miller. Like, if it wasn't for Omarion Miller making some big plays,
right?
Because their standard drives look more like this: pass complete for 4 yards, run. They ran the ball well this game. That's what I saw in the second half that I hadn't seen all season.
Right.
They actually ran the ball decently, but pass complete for 4 yards, pass complete for 9 yards, pass complete for 7 yards, pass complete for 9 yards. That's what I see from Colorado most of the time. But normally they can't run the ball in between those. Here, that's a touchdown drive because it's complemented by a bunch of good runs in between.
Right.
So, they needed some magic from a receiver. They got some, and then they needed to stick to some fundamentals, and they actually were able to run the ball pretty well. So, if it looks like they're improving on anything, it's running the ball.
Cal managed to improve to 3-2 with a 24-21 victory over Arizona State. Arizona State is struggling. I mean, they had some sanctions. They can't go to a bowl game this year. Not that they're going to do anyway. But anyway.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, they're struggling, but they're 1-4, 0-2 in the Pac-12. But it's still a team that's dangerous. I mean, they obviously 3 points to Cal. They were in the game with USC last week. They have talent. It's just that they're they know that there's nothing really to play for, so that kind of ruins the season, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, rest of the college football. Let's talk about some games in the rest of college football. And you know what? I don't have my thing up, so hold on just a second. Holding up, right? Hold on, wait on it. Penn State 41-13 over Northwestern in classic fashion. Penn State looks good, 5-0, 3-0.
I mean, it was a tie game at the half.
It was.
Then they made the right adjustments.
But I mean, that's what Oregon did, right? Oregon struggled for a while, and then boom.
It wasn't a tie game at the half.
No, but I mean, still, they were behind in the second quarter.
It was a slow first half.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, they were getting matched stride for stride in the first half.
They were, but Penn State is better than Northwestern. They showed it in the second
Agreed.
half. And Penn State's good enough. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Ohio State and Michigan, but they're definitely good enough to be in that conversation. Notre Dame. Gosh, I hate that game. I want Notre Dame found a way to win 21-14 over Duke, or Duke found a way to lose. Call it whatever you want. Notre Dame gets. I mean, you can call it luck of the Irish, whatever. They get really lucky, to me.
And that's what makes it so disgusting, right? That's what makes you watch them go, oh,
yeah,
freaking gross.
Right.
I don't understand that Notre Dame touchdown, right, where it's 4th and long, 4th and 16, and you let the quarterback, who can run, run. Oh,
right, yeah.
Like that's the game. You make that stop, and it's tied, but you make that stop, it's a tie game.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame only has 2 more games against teams that are three. So they play at Louisville next week, and then against USC at home on the 14th. They do play at Clemson on the 4th.
That USC at home game is the only game that might take game day away from Oregon, Washington. Yeah. I don't think it will, but that's the other big game that week.
It is. USC Notre Dame is a classic game, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But these are the only 3 games they have left. There's only, I mean, they played 6 games already, right? So they've only got half their season's over with. So, but to be honest, they lost to Ohio State, the only team that was ranked higher than them, right? And so when they play USC, that'll be the question, right? Clemson is still a team that can be dangerous if you're playing at Clemson. So they got a couple of more chances to lose. I'm hoping they do. I just don't like Notre Dame. I just don't like them. I wish they would join a conference, and I wish the NCAA would make them join a conference. I wish all the other conferences would stop scheduling them. Stop scheduling Notre Dame, and then you'll make them join a conference. But
I mean
the money.
The money.
I know it's the money. I get it. But
it's a money. It's been a money business since the 90s. It's all about that money.
all the Big Ten has to do is say, "Oh, we're not playing you. Sorry."
Yeah.
And they'll join the conference. They'll have to get in because they won't have any money to give. Who are they going to give the money to? Middle Tennessee. So, anyway.
That's true.
Yeah. Just make them irrelevant.
And not to mention, if you play Notre Dame, you get guaranteed national television exposure.
Yeah, it'll either be on their network on NBC or it'll be on one of the regulars. But
so it doesn't matter really how good of a team you are. If you're looking to get your name out there, you're looking to grab a little cash. That is a good deal. But if they're willing to play you,
they're perennially overranked. And they're always listed as, this is a national championship contender. No, not really. I mean,
they got to play USC in 2 weeks. We'll find out a lot about them in 2 weeks because they don't look like they have any sort of super powerful offense. So they'll have to contend with USC.
Yeah, and their list of teams that they beat, I mean, Duke is the best win they've had this year. Central Michigan, North Carolina State, okay. Tennessee State, Navy. So, anyway, I don't know. I hate Notre Dame. It's one of those teams that I just don't like. I don't like watching them play. Why do we have independent teams? Anyway.
It's because of the military.
And that's fine. The military teams could be independent. I don't mind that.
Yeah, but it's because of the military teams that we allow independent teams to exist.
Right. But most of the Air Force is in a conference. So
yeah, there's no reason to be independent anymore.
No, not anymore. Used to be because there used to be Florida State was an independent team.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
There is no reason for it anymore. Join a conference, get with the program.
They need to be in the Big Ten just like everybody, all those other teams that are right there. It just needs to happen. But now they're not because everybody else is in the Big Ten. Anyway, long story short. Anywho, Alabama crushed Mississippi State at Mississippi State 40-17. They looked pretty good doing it. Although I still have questions. They're a good running team. Their passing game is terrible. I think if you can stop the run, load up the box and make Jalen Milroe throw the ball, because he can't. I don't think he can. Anyway, that's just me talking, but whatever. So Alabama wins again. They're 4-1, 2-0 in the SEC. Mississippi State is not as good as they normally are this time of year. The LSU Ole Miss game was amazing. Did you watch?
Yeah, it was exciting.
Yeah, did you watch that game? That was amazing to me. Ole Miss wins 55-49 with 21 fourth quarter points to come from behind and win this game, and Judkins for Mississippi with 33 carries, 177 yards and a touchdown. 177 yards, really? Anyway, they answered every time. It was like score. They ran out to that 21-7 lead, and then it was back and forth for a while. And I just liked watching that kind of a football game where every possession was important. And it felt good to watch, and it felt good to watch LSU lose. I like watching LSU lose too. There's that.
I mean, it's so funny because for years I had to listen to SEC fans talk about defense, Now, defense is the most important thing. And I'm looking over the scores this weekend: 27-20, 40-17, 49-55, 41-20, 33-14, 38-21, 34-22.
Yep.
There's not a lot of
Not a
defense
lot of
going
defense.
on around here. So like it's not a thing anymore. And I it's crazy because when you see these scores, you realize that, it's all changing. And with high scoring games, with less defense, more skill players, higher scoring games, it makes anybody can get up on any given day,
Right.
and score. And I think Ole Miss isn't a better team than LSU, like top to bottom,
Right.
but they could score better, and they made it a boat race.
Right. And
So
and the game was Jaden Daniels for LSU, 27 of 36, 414 and 4 touchdowns. He did have a
he's
fumble.
outperforming my expectations for him this year.
He did lose a fumble. That was the only turnover in the game, by the way. Jackson Dart.
Yeah, but that hit was
It's true.
bonkers.
Jackson Dart for Ole Miss was every bit as good. 26 of 39, 389 and 4 touchdowns himself. The quarterback ratings are almost identical. So, I mean, that was amazing. So, yeah, the difference came down to the running game. 317 yards of rushing for Ole Miss. Ulysses Bentley with 10 yards a carry, 9 carries for 90 yards. But LSU averaged 6 yards a carry. So it was amazing. The running games, the passing games were identical. Ole Miss had the ball and ran for more yards. They managed to control it just a little bit more, and at the end, it was just came down to, they just outscored them. I mean, just outlasted them. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good game. I like watching games like that, but that's the problem with baseball, right? Because this game here makes you not want to watch baseball. 55-49. Okay, who wants to watch a 2-1 baseball game?
Right? Why am I tuning in?
Right.
Why am I tuning into baseball when that's on?
When that's on. Yeah, I mean, hey, look, this guy's throwing a no-hitter. That's boring. No-hitters are boring.
No-hitters are very exciting for the final inning.
At the 9th inning, yeah.
Yeah, at the very end of the 9th inning, you're like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it?
Yeah. Other than that, no, there's no reason to watch.
Because in the middle of the 6th, you're like, great, no one's gotten a hit yet.
Great, this is really boring. Oklahoma moved to 5-0 to set up the Red River rivalry showdown with Texas, with a 50-20 win over Iowa State. Iowa State season's over.
Yeah, it sure seems that way.
It was the gambling, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, and then Tennessee won 41-20 over South Carolina. It took them a minute to get going, but they managed to. They were the better team. And what do you think of the black uniforms? Again,
I like them.
Yeah, I think those uniforms caused a stir. Well, they wore white pants with the black tops last time. I think they wore the black uniforms. I don't know.
No.
Was that 2 times ago? I remember watching.
That was like 3 or 4. Well, so they've only worn the black 4 times.
Okay.
The first time they wore it, they wore the white pants with it. Every time since then,
it's been black.
It's been black on black.
The first time I watched them with the white and the black, I was like, "That's dumb, guys."
It was so dumb looking.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the solid black with the orange. It looks good. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they won like they should, 41-20. South Carolina is one of those teams, an also-ran team in the SEC. But what else we got here?
I couldn't have been more happy to see Spencer Rattler lose. That's always fun.
Kentucky beat Florida 33-14. Now Kentucky vaults into the top 25 because they're 5-0 and they beat a ranked team.
Yeah, they put them in a little late because they've been playing pretty good.
Yeah, Kentucky looks good, although they play Georgia next, and I wonder if that's the reason why they haven't been
to bump up the ratings for the
correct.
Run.
Yeah, that's the reason why they jumped them in, is because there's that. There were other football games, but we're not really going to talk about them. But yeah, so Oregon, so Georgia, so yeah. Let me go to this. Sorry, I have an AP poll here somewhere. Let me get the rankings up here because I have it. So your AP poll looks like this currently. This is week 6 of the AP poll. Georgia lost some first place votes in the AP poll. They did. Michigan, Texas picked up votes. Ohio State, Florida State still on there. I still think Florida State's severely overranked. I don't know that anybody's going to expose them at this point because they've already beaten Clemson. But I don't think they're the 5th best team in the country. I don't think that's true. I don't think Texas is the 3rd best team in the country. And maybe Oklahoma will expose them this weekend. I don't know. But Washington, Oregon, USC, 7, 8, 9. Oregon jumped USC in that poll. Notre Dame's at 10 again. Alabama's 11. Washington State moved up 3 points. They're 13th in the country. Washington State's a dangerous football team. I've been saying that all year. Oregon State managed with that win over a ranked team, moved up 4 to 15. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Ole Miss moved up 4 with the win over LSU. LSU is still ranked at 3-2. I don't agree with that. I know
Well, that'll happen.
I know your 2 losses are to ranked teams. I don't agree with that. I don't. It doesn't matter at this point. If you're 3-2 and not 4-1, you don't need to be ranked. There are plenty of teams at 5-0 or 4-1 that should be on this chart, and not you. But somehow or other, they managed to stay on, which is the problem with the poll, because now you got a ranked team again still, and so whoever beats them next gets to beat a ranked team, even though they're a terrible team.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, there's frustration on my part. But
have you played with this All-State playoff predictor?
I have. It's pretty.
It's kind of fun.
It's interesting, right? What happens? Do you win out? Do you lose? Who do you lose to? There's all that stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, but I don't know how accurate it is, right?
Well, as of right now, they have Oregon as the lock from the Pac-12. They have Oregon as a 40% chance to make the playoff, Washington at 21, USC at 14.
Oregon's playing good.
That's what they have right now.
Yeah.
But if you click on Oregon and you put one loss and you select Washington and then you assume they play for the conference title and make up for that,
yeah,
it's about an 83% chance to make the playoff.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty good.
Yeah. If Oregon can go through with one loss, any of these teams, Washington, Oregon, or USC, goes through with one loss and wins the conference championship game, they're going to go to the playoff.
It's just when the loss occurs. Because if Oregon loses to Oregon State, it's gone.
It'll be tough. Well, okay, hold on.
Well, hold on. If Oregon loses to Oregon State and still can play in the Pac-12 title game because there's no divisions anymore,
right? And they can.
Then probably, assumingly in this case, playing Oregon State again.
assuming Oregon beats hold on. Assuming Oregon beats Washington, right? Gives them a loss. Yeah. Loses to Oregon State at the end of the season, right? But Oregon State has lost to somebody else. Okay.
Right. Oregon State probably loses another one. Yeah.
And Oregon manages to sneak into the Pac-12 championship game, plays USC, an undefeated USC, and wins. They're going. Yeah. They're going to the playoff. There's no doubt.
Yeah. More than likely.
Right.
The only. I mean. It's just whether or not that they can still get into the playoff. Because if Oregon State has one loss and Oregon goes there and loses one game, Oregon State will be the team that goes to the conference playoff against whoever else over Oregon, more than likely, assuming all other things kind of remain consistent. And then Oregon won't get another shot, and they'll be 7th, 8th, 9th in the rankings without a conference championship attempt.
But if Oregon managed to beat USC or Washington next weekend, Washington State, right?
Yeah.
And then USC, right? When they play, they got a good chance. I mean,
you're not wrong. Best case scenario, if they do lose a game, they get a chance to play in the conference championship still. That's all they need. Because if they don't get that, then it's kind of tough.
Right. And
although they could lose to Washington in a close one and not drop too far in the rankings, considering they still play USC later this year.
They could. They absolutely could. I don't have my games this weekend up. Why don't I have that?
I can tell you who's playing this weekend.
I know who's playing this weekend.
Oh,
I had typed it all out as there's like we do this every week, but I just didn't have it where I wanted it, which is here. Look at that. Ta-da! There you go. Because I make this every week. This is what's happening. This is not this weekend. Sorry. Oh my gosh. 10-4. It says it was updated on 10-4. That's today, right?
10-4 today, correct.
Yeah. Okay. I don't.
10. I should have said 10-4 to that. That's
10-4.
Right. 10.
Today's the best okay day. Here's the games. Here's the games this weekend. So you got the Red River rivalry. That's where game day is. Texas, number 12, Oklahoma at number 3, Texas. 9 a.m. on ABC. Big game. LSU plays Missouri, right? Missouri's a ranked team, 5-0. Washington State at UCLA. There's another good football game. Alabama at Texas A&M, who's not ranked, and we always think they're overrated, but there's a chance for Texas A&M, right, to prove something.
Right.
You got number 20 Kentucky at number 1 Georgia at 4 o'clock on ESPN. You got Notre Dame playing at Louisville, who's 5-0. 4:30 on ABC. Fresno State better watch out. They're playing at Wyoming. Wyoming's world beaters at 5 o'clock on Fox. That's going to be a good game. And then, late games, Oregon State at Cal on Pac-12 Network and Arizona at USC. not a lot of great football, but there's some pretty good games on there. If you're going to watch the Red River rivalry, that's going to be good. LSU Missouri is going to be good. I think Washington State UCLA is going to be a good football game. And if Texas A&M can play good, can stop the run, that'll be a good game against Alabama. So.
I think Kentucky Georgia is one I'm looking forward to peeking at.
I feel like Georgia
more intriguing than it seems.
I'm hoping it's a good game, but I feel like Georgia's going to bomb them.
After they had a close game last week, they'll go out and shell the next team.
Right, that's kind of what I feel. I don't know. I think if you're going to stay up late, well, it's not late, 5 o'clock p.m. on Fox, watch that Fresno State-Wyoming game. Yeah. That's going to be a good football game. Anyway, there's the top 25 plus the Pac-12. That's what you get this week. So there's that. Let's talk about the NFL because we can. That's what we do here. Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers managed to win again. Barely. I mean, let's not get crazy about it. 24-17 over the Raiders. They hung on. They were up 24-7 and hung on to win. Khalil Mack with 6 sacks, right? Was amazing. Justin Herbert hurt his non-throwing index finger somehow with a face masking or got it caught in a helmet or a face mask or whatever.
It probably hit somebody's helmet or something.
Yeah. But he's not expected to miss any time. They have a week off before they play again. So that's a big deal. But
did you hear his answer when they asked him about his injury? He said "'tis but a scratch."
His QBR in this game was 35.7, by the way. Wasn't great. 167 yards, a touchdown, interception. He did run for 2 touchdowns, which, was a big deal. The Chargers ran for 155 yards, which was good. Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback in Las Vegas. I had no idea that was who the quarterback in Las Vegas was. And when I started looking for pictures, it shows number 4, and I thought that was all Derek Carr. But it wasn't.
How are you going to be the next guy to come in and use the same number as the last guy?
I would not use the same number as the last guy. I wouldn't.
Just for diversity's sake. I mean, but I suppose if you look out and you see a sea of number 4 jerseys.
Yeah.
Because you can't see the back of the jersey, so I guess that could be a confidence booster.
It's true. So Aiden O'Connell had a QBR of 8.2, by the way. By the way. 24 of 39, 238 yards. He did throw an interception. He was sacked 7 times, 6 of them by Khalil Mack. So there's that. But still, the 8.2 seems awful low. But I mean, the quarterback rating is ridiculous to me. I don't think it's a made up thing anyway. But yeah, it was good that the defense did, and there was a 4th down thing that Brandon Staley likes to go for, and they screwed that up, but the defense managed to save them. I don't know. I just don't feel like this team is there. You know what I mean? Like there's something missing, and maybe it's the head coach at this point. Maybe it's Brandon Staley. Maybe it's his decision making. I don't know. Justin Herbert does what he needs to do to win football games, but he doesn't always have the right. I mean, they're still without Austin Eckler, who they're Swiss Army knife. I don't know. Well, did you watch this game or did you see this game? Because it's not on. It wasn't on here. And I hate that. I can't just watch it.
I have Red Zone.
So you watched it,
yeah. Well, I watched portions of it.
Right.
Because my game was on. No, was it the 1:00 game?
This was I don't know. Good question.
Crap. I feel like they were on at the same time as my game.
Might have been. This was 1:05. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an afternoon game. So no, it was not on at the same time as my game, but it was not. It was blacked out in our area. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I am totally losing my mind here because I watched a bunch of it, but I set up 2 TVs for game day, so I was watching it on the smaller TV, and I thought that's because I was streaming it. But honestly, no, I'm not 100% sure. But I did get to see quite a bit of it, and I thought they played well enough, but you really just didn't love what you were seeing.
No, it wasn't. It was weird. It was one of those games, yeah, I know. But 24-7 at the half, and you're like, yeah, this is right, yeah. And then the second half, they didn't score, which was awful. I mean, it just feels awful when you don't score. Anyway, the Chargers are 2-2. Raiders are 1-3. Chargers are back in this. They're in second place in the division, so I guess there's that.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Denver Broncos and the Raiders. But that's
Yay.
we'll talk about that more in a minute. So the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins had a showdown, right? In Buffalo, 48-20 was the score. The Bills looked, and Josh Allen looked fantastic in this game. The Dolphins just didn't seem to have it. There was, I don't know, whatever it was after they scored 70, maybe they were tired. I don't know. But the Bills managed to reassert their dominance, I guess, let's say, in the AFC East. Did you see any of this game? This game was on TV.
This game was on TV, and this was on TV, I think, while I was watching my other game, because it's an East Coast game, so it would have aired earlier. Yeah, no, I did. I saw, again, I had that one TV on Red Zone, so I saw highlights, and all I could think was, last week the Broncos scored 20 on the Dolphins, and they gave up 70, and that's a lot of points. But like in the fourth quarter, they were showing shots of the Broncos sidelines, and the Broncos were all like dejected and looked like they wanted to go home and were miserable. I'm sure the fact that it was like 100 degrees outside didn't help.
Right.
But they showed a scene of the Dolphins bench in this game in the fourth quarter, and it was the same energy. All these players just looking like they just wanted to freaking go home. Like they're tired of getting stomped for the day. So I just think it's interesting that in 2 weeks, the Dolphins have had one of the best offensive performances in history, but this year, and have had one of the worst defensive performances in history and this year.
And the Dolphins, one of those things I always complain about being a Dolphins fan, and I'm a lifelong Dolphins fan. I'm not necessarily as big a fan of them right now, but the Dolphins, one of those biggest complaints I had was the division they play in is not fair to Miami. Road games at Buffalo, the New York Jets, and New England are not the same as a road game in Miami. You might have, but Buffalo, New York, and New England have to go there once. Miami has to go to the New England states 3 times. This was their opportunity. You're going to Buffalo in a great time. The weather was good, and you don't have to deal with snow and all that stuff. And they just blew it big time. So that's been one of my complaints, was that the Dolphins are like in a division that just sucks for them, to be honest with you, because they got 3 road games to shitty weather places. Every year. But it doesn't, it didn't matter in this game. They just were not good enough. And Miami's running game looked pretty good. I mean, it was all Devin Akane? I don't know how to say
his last name.
I don't either. 8 carries, 101 yards, 12.6 yard average. The Miami Dolphins averaged 7.5 yards a carry and scored 2 touchdowns, but they couldn't win. Again, they turned the ball over. There was 4 sacks.
It's Achane.
Achane. Okay, it doesn't sound right.
It's Devon Achane.
It doesn't look right.
Yeah.
It's not spelled right then. Anyway, but yeah, it was one of those games where the Buffalo came out and they just dominated right from the get-go, and it just looked like their game, and they were. Josh Allen, 21 of 25. He only had 4 incomplete passes, 4 touchdowns. He only sacked twice. He looked good. He just looked good. And the running game was decent enough, and they just, it was everything. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, anyway, the question was, how would Miami respond, or are they the best team in the division? No, is the short answer at this point. No. Buffalo reminded them who the best team in the division. How about your Broncos?
Wait, hold on. Before we get to that.
Yeah, go.
Achane?
Yeah.
The name?
Yeah.
Most prevalent in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
1 in 4,420,000 people have the last name Achane.
All right. Who knew?
I sat here and I was like, you know what? That's a weird name. I wonder where it's from. So I Googled it.
Yeah.
And it's originally of Asian. It's of Asian descent, but it's originally of like coastal Asian descent. But now it's mostly found like Kazakhstan area. So kind of wild.
Here's my question. Russell Wilson threw 21 of 28 for 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. Only sacked was. His QBR is 33.2. I'm confused by that more than anything, what the QBR stands for, because that seems like a great day. right?
There are
75%
there are
completion.
some weird things that keep happening that I see that I'm like, I don't entirely understand
Right.
why that number looks that way, or why his thing is so low. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Weird,
it's
right?
kind of strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It was. It took 24 second half points. Let's be honest, right? To for Denver to win this game in Chicago.
Right.
Chicago, who's not great, looked pretty good. Justin Fields looked pretty good. 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, interception. He was sacked 4 times. Okay, there's that. You know, the Bears ran for 5.5 yards a carry. Khalil Herbert ran for 103 yards. They didn't. Neither team had a rushing touchdown. There's that. It came down to Denver's defense making a play or two, right? Um, it was I don't know. I want to give Denver a lot of credit for coming back from behind on the road and beating. It was Chicago though, right? So
Right.
we got to temper it with that. So the Bears are 0-4. Denver's 1-3. Are is Denver this much better than Chicago, or is this a Chicago tank at the end, or what? I mean, I don't know what happened. Is my question.
It's hard to say. So I guess the only other way to do it is to look at each individual player and don't judge the teams, judge the players.
Okay.
Because on like single performances. Because
Right.
if you try and judge the team as a whole, then you can start wondering: are they tanking? Is this on purpose? Are these bad? Was this 4th and 1 going for it? Instead of kicking the field goal to take the lead, was this on purpose?
Right.
Like, would you intentionally not keep the ball in Justin Fields' hands? What are you doing here?
Right.
But no, I mean the fact of the matter is this: is that on the season, Russell Wilson has the 3rd highest passer rating in the NFL.
Yeah.
On the season. Now his QBR is lower.
Low.
His
Yeah.
QBR is like 18, so he's
It's weird.
he's middle bottom of the pack in QBR,
Right.
which factors in more than just pure passing numbers,
Right.
But as a passer, Russell Wilson's been fantastic this year. He's 9-2 touchdowns, interceptions. That puts him ahead of Josh Allen at 9-4.
Right.
He's not thrown for the most yards, right? Like I think when you put in his yardage numbers, he's down there. But they're having an up year despite having defensive struggles, big defensive struggles. They were leading in the Raiders game. They were leading in the Commanders game. They've been in the only game they didn't lead was the freaking Dolphins game.
Gotcha.
In every game they've been competitive except the Dolphins game, which I mean 70-20. Let's call it a freak accident like it is, right?
Right.
Obviously, it came down to earth this week real fast. So I wouldn't say that everyone was expecting this game to be a dud. This was a great game to watch, right? Like you had these moments where you could have been like, why did he do that? This is a questionable decision or whatever. But like the pick that Justin Fields threw, it wasn't a particularly awful throw, but it was a good pick. The going for it on 4th down, it wasn't a particularly bad decision, but it didn't work out and it cost you the game. But this game had pretty much everything you could have wanted out of it. I liked the way it played out, but I do say the same thing all the time. But it's the Bears. I don't know.
Right.
I just don't trust
it's
the Bears.
I mean,
So, but I mean, it's the NFL, right?
Right.
You got to try
a
every
win.
week.
You got to win something. You got to win sometime, right? A 10-game win streak starts with one game. So, I mean, I don't know.
Good way to say that.
Yeah, Russell Wilson hasn't been terrible. It's just that I don't think the team is very good. And then the Bears obviously found a way to lose this game. Let's put it that way. Their defense. I mean, they were up 21-7. They looked great at that point, right? And then they just decided, nah, we're not going to play anymore. It was 28-7 to start the 3rd quarter after Herbert scored. Khalil Herbert got his 2-yard pass from Justin Fields. Anyway, and then they gave up 24 straight points. That's bad. That's just a bad loss.
And that's what the Broncos did to the Commanders.
It's,
the Broncos were leading the Commanders like 28-21-3 or something like that, and then we just surrendered a ton of points in a row. So I've seen it happen.
Speaking of the Commanders were in the game with the Eagles, 34-31 in overtime. The Eagles managed to come away with their 4th straight win. Jake Elliott hit a 54-yard field goal in overtime to lift the Eagles to victory. It wasn't. The Commanders are pretty good for a team that is what 2-2. I feel like the Commanders are probably the best 2-2 team maybe out there. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're better than they've been given credit for to start the season.
yeah, and their defense is really good, except they gave up 34 points in this one, but it's the Eagles. I mean, you're going to give up some points.
Right.
To stay in the game was what was amazing. Jalen Hurts 319 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. The Eagles are 4-0. Just as a I don't want to talk about it too much, but the Eagles are the Eagles, so they are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
But you know who we didn't think was this good? The Texans beat the Steelers 30-6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Little surprising.
and I know the Steelers have some offensive injuries. Kenny Pickett left that game with an injury, by the way. But C.J. Stroud, the last couple of football games, has been amazing.
Right.
Yeah, he was 16 of 30 in this one. Okay, the completion percentage is not great, but it's 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks, with a rating of 111, a QBR of 76. Right against Jacksonville last week, 20 of 30, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Right, a QBR of 86. Um, the 2 games before that, the first 2 games of the season, he was sacked 6 times versus Indianapolis, 5 times against Baltimore. So if they keep him upright, he's been amazing the last 2 games. I mean, he's got 6 touchdowns and no interceptions this season. So he's learning, and I think that you watch him as you watch him every week, he's gotten a little bit better at what he's done. I think they're going to be Houston might be dangerous. I don't know. So win over Jacksonville and a win over Pittsburgh. That's 2 right big wins. One's division and one's just in the conference. So, T.J. Watt is not somebody you just normally who doesn't get a sack against a rookie quarterback. But they managed to keep. I don't know. What is your impression of C.J. Stroud at this point in the season?
Well, I believe you asked me preseason who I thought was going to be the most was going to have the best year of the big 3 rookies. C.J. Stroud. Oh my gosh, where are the other 2? Where are the other 2?
Anthony
Which ones am I missing?
Richardson and
Anthony Richardson.
the other one.
Oh geez, why is this eluding us?
It's not. I mean, it is, but it's not because I just can't. The name's not on the tip of my
Tis,
tongue.
but it isn't. Well, anyways, of those 3, other guy to be named at a later date,
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. I said that C.J. Stroud. I said that Anthony Richardson wouldn't surprise me if he had the best year, but I said that C.J. Stroud was most likely to.
Man.
And he just has the best build for it. I don't know if you'd have thought he'd be this good, this fast,
with Houston, yeah.
With Houston,
right.
I mean, but that's the thing. Houston's like a team full of young dudes.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, like anything could happen, right? But they've scored 37 and 30 in 2 straight games. Like that's incredible. And they've got a good stretch here where you play the Falcons, Saints, and Panthers.
Yeah, they got a good chance. Yeah,
they could easily stretch this out and be dangerous. And they've got 2 divisional wins, they've got 1 divisional win already. So yeah, it's interesting. But like when you look over this, the players on this team, you don't really know that many of them. Some of the names stick out, like Will Anderson and Xavier Hutchinson, but all these other guys, I'm like, I don't know who the hell this is.
Right.
So. But yeah, they have a really young team, and with young teams, you just don't quite know what you're going to get.
Yeah, Houston's they're dangerous. That's a division too. Also, Tennessee kind of started playing some football too, so there's that. But Tennessee, Indianapolis, Houston are all 2-2 at this point. So and Jacksonville too. So I guess 4 teams at 2-2. So you don't know what you're going to get in that division. So it was good. It was good to see him do well. But Pittsburgh, their offense is terrible. Their offense is just terrible. They've got to find a way to score some points. And I don't know what it is. Najee Harris, 14 carries, 71 yards, no touch. They didn't score offensively. Kenny Pickett was 15 of 23, 114 yards and an interception. His QBR was still higher than other people's. I don't understand QBR, like I said. But it's so bad that when Mitch Trubisky has to come in the game because Kenny Pickett got hurt. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see Pittsburgh being an offensive. How they're 2-2, it's all defense, right?
Because, one of those games is completely one defense.
and they got crushed by San Francisco, right, 30-7. So there was that game, and that game I watched, and Kenny Pickett was bad. I just watched that game; it was just terrible.
Right.
It's interesting. The Steelers are still 2-2, though. I mean, if they can find a way to do something, I don't know, but I don't think that's a great football team either. Let's talk about the Niners, who are a really good football team, and managed to win again against the Cardinals, 35-16. Brock Purdy is still unbeaten at quarterback, right?
Right.
Christian McCaffrey, 20 carries, 106 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Right? If you got him on your fantasy football team, and I do, you're you're doing all right, right? So yeah, the Niners just look like, and it's Cardinals. I get it, but it was the same team that beat the Cowboys last week. The Niners are good. They're really good defensively, offensively, every little part of it. Right? Looks good. And this is like the only team in the NFL right now. Normally, through 3 games, I can tell you by that point who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. And we're at 4 games, and I still have a lot of questions about
There's a lot. There's still a lot to learn about everyone.
Right. I don't think the Eagles are as good as the Niners. If you had to put them in a game right now, I'd put the Niners. I'd pick the Niners. I would.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would have taken the Niners last year had they been healthy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. For sure. And then like the Chiefs, who were 3-1, barely. Right. They barely beat the Jets.
But you have a feeling they're going to pick it up. Like they're going to figure out whatever is the problem, whatever it is.
There was a not phantom. It was a holding call. Yeah, okay. It was probably holding.
They actually called pass interference.
Pass interference, right?
But it should have been called holding.
Right.
Because it was out of the break.
Right. It was holding. It wasn't.
Yeah. There was definitely a penalty there that would have resulted in a first down.
Yeah, and by letter of the law, but there was a lot more crap going on in this game that didn't get called. Right. So there's one of those penalties where you go, okay, I could see where they didn't if they didn't call it, but yeah, they did. So they did, and you know why that Robert Saleh got upset about the game, about the outcome, right? But still, your team shouldn't have been in that position. I mean, you were there. It was 2020. You were there in this game, and just managed to not.
And you shouldn't have been.
And you. Right, and you really shouldn't have been there.
This is not a team you should be competing with.
Right. Yeah. So you were in the football game. I think to the Jets' credit, they're good enough to stay in the game just because of their defense, for the most part. In most any football game, they're going to be right there, and you better find a way to beat them offensively. You got to find a way to score. But still, the Jets are 1-3. Chiefs are 3-1. They are like I said, they are who I thought they were. Monday night game, Seahawks 24, Giants 3. The Giants still look inept on offense. They just look terrible.
I tell you right now, anybody I know, we could all coach better offenses. Easy.
There's no doubt. They looked so bad, and I feel bad for Daniel Jones, right?
I don't feel bad for Daniel Jones. He sucks. He sucked last year. I don't know why they stuck with him.
But hold on. He got sacked 11 times in this football game. If you're getting
some of it was his fault, and some of it wasn't.
Well, that's true.
That's a lot.
But when your offensive line is not good and you start getting sacked, the ones that aren't your fault, you start making bad decisions. Those are your fault. And that's what happens is it compounds. And so, I mean, even if it was half and half, it's still 5 sacks your offensive line gave up. If you were responsible for 5.5, they were responsible for 5.5. Devin Witherspoon has probably put himself in as defensive rookie of the year. After 2 games, he's played 3 games. He didn't play in the first game, but he's played 3 games. In this game, he gets a 97-yard pick six, 2 sacks. He had another tackle for a loss. He had 11 tackles last week. He looked amazing. Now the interception was thrown right to him. There's right to him. But still, Seattle is 3-1. Are we buying Seattle as a 3-1 team?
No. First of all, I'm not buying Devin Witherspoon.
Really?
Not entirely, right? He's not top 10. Technically, he's not even top 15 in passes defended. He's got 1 pick on the season.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, he's a rookie, and maybe there's not a lot of rookies out there doing that. It's kind of a hard thing to sort through on here. You just kind of got to know who's a rookie and who's not. But I mean, okay, you had a great game against the most inept offensive team I've ever witnessed.
Sure.
And I am a fan of the 2022 Broncos. So I know inept offense when I see it. This was bad. And this guy hucked a ball directly at you, and you're an athlete. You
Yep.
can score off of it just fine.
Sure.
Daniel Jones still almost got him.
Yeah.
Still
Well.
almost tracked him down, but he had
Yeah.
a weird angle he had to take on it. So
Yeah.
I'm just not buying that. And as far as the Seahawks go, right, Geno Smith is having a worse year than last year
Yeah.
for in a lot of different ways and a lot of different reasons. They are doing the classic Seahawk thing, and I talk to this Austin about this all the time, where they eke out games on. Now this game wasn't eked out, but they eke out wins, tight games on weird possessions, weird defensive possessions, weird defensive things, or the other team makes a mistake and they walk away with the win. They won against the Lions because Jared Goff couldn't even get on the field again.
Yeah.
Like, that's unfortunate. And they beat the Panthers by 10, but that game was closer than it seemed all game. So they're just I'm waiting for them to. They have a stretch coming up where they have to play the Browns, the Ravens, the Rams, the 49ers, Cowboys, 49ers, Eagles.
Right.
Yeah, they're probably going to lose 4 or 5 games in this whole little spat here in the middle. And they're going to lose twice to the 49ers, I think, which means that they're not even going to be, which means they're going to be a wild card team at best.
At best, yeah.
At best.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, on the plus
You're
side,
not
they
wrong.
end the season with Titans, Steelers, Cardinals, so they should be able to just wipe through that.
Geno Smith had a knee injury, let's call it, in the middle of this game. Drew Lock came in and engineered a scoring drive, which was really nice. Noah Fant had a 51-yard catch in that drive. That was the big part of it, but almost scored, just knocked down at the one. But Drew Lock was 2 of 6. He's 2 of 6 for 63 yards. Right? He had a better QBR by 50 than Geno Smith, who was 13 of 20 for 110 yards and a touchdown. I don't understand QBR. Someone's got to explain it to me. I don't get it. I know sacks are probably part of it, and the yard average per attempt is probably part of it. I get it. I don't get the whole math of it, because there's no way Drew Lock was 50 QBR points better than Geno Smith in this game. Okay.
I have the exact formula.
Do you? What is it?
Yeah. So it's completions divided by attempts minus 0.3 times 5. Yards divided by attempts minus 0.3 times 0.25. Touchdowns divided by attempts times 20. Interceptions, so 2.375 minus interceptions divided by attempts times 25. Each component is constrained between 0 and 2.375, added together, divided by 6, and finally multiplied by 100. Since each component is capped at 2.375, the highest pass rating can be is 158.3. So it entails a ton of information, but yeah, it does factor into more things. Yeah, it does factor into how far you're throwing the ball. Interceptions, incompletions. What do the incompletions look like? Designed quarterback runs get factored into QBR. So, like, that's why Justin Fields can have a higher one.
Weird.
And it's a little bit. So but it's widely considered to be a more accurate rating.
Yeah. Okay. Bobby Wagner had 17 tackles and 2 sacks in this game, by the way. Bobby Wagner is a tackling machine still. At what? How old is Bobby Wagner? He's 33.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's really good. I don't know. I don't know about the Seahawks. I'm not sold. The Niners are still way better than them, right? And I think the Rams are probably still better than them, but more to be seen later. I feel sorry for Daniel Jones. Your offense has been bad. Your offensive line has been bad. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. He's been sacked 22 times this year in 4 games, right?
Yeah.
That's 5 a game. Now, yeah, 10 of them. Well, they only list 10 I thought it was 11, but they only list 10 for the Seahawks. Anyway, he's been sacked.
Maybe one of them didn't count.
He's been sacked 22 times this year, right? His best game, they beat Arizona 31-28 in week 2. He has a QBR of 76, a rating of 103. But he was only sacked 3 times. He still threw two touchdowns, 1 interception. He's thrown 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this year. Yeah, it just doesn't look good. But if your offensive line is letting people go through, if there's that kind of issue, and they've got both guards have been hurt and a tackle, and they're just, I mean, I don't know. It's almost like you'd want to take the year off and say, hey, you should put someone else in.
They're dead last in points per game, and they're second to last in total yards per game. Do you know who's floating right around them?
In points per game and yards per game?
Yeah, the person who's above them and below them in each category, or not above them and below, but like, so they're last in points per game. Who's right above them? And they're second to last in total yards per game. Who's right below them?
Oh,
same team.
Arizona?
Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, Cincinnati's been bad.
Cincinnati's been bad.
Their offense.
If people want to put that into context, they are at this point at 12.3 points per game. The Broncos at this point last year, when they were abysmal, were at 17.
Yeah.
But another perspective here is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams below 17 points per game this season. It's been a strange season. Cincinnati. And then you have the Dolphins, who have a absolutely skewed
because of the one,
because of the one game.
One game. Yeah. 150 points for. Woo! And still, the Bills are an 84 plus, right? They're way better plus minus than the Dolphins in terms of
the Bills are 11 points behind you, and they didn't have a 70-point game.
Yeah, they not at all. Yeah. The Cowboys scored 124, but they erupted for like 40 in one game, and
they had that big first game and everything like that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with points. Points doesn't necessarily count for offensive points. It's just total points.
In your opinion, right now, who's the best team in the NFL?
49ers. Not even close.
I'm with you. If you had to pick the best team in the AFC,
damn.
Right.
I'm gonna say Buffalo.
Okay, but you don't want to.
I don't fully believe it.
Right. I would say that Buffalo and Kansas City, their defenses look about the same, right, in terms of points given up and all that kind of stuff. But the Buffalo offense looks a little better. Kansas City has struggled more on offense to score points. Some of that was Travis Kelce game one being gone, right? I get it. And some of that has to do with Taylor Swift. I don't know. But I don't know. The AFC looks muddy at best. And if you told me the Baltimore was the best team in the AFC, I'd believe you. If you told me that,
and if the Chargers could figure out a little bit of defense, they'd probably start beating everyone.
It's been 3.5 years now, right?
Right.
No, it isn't working. I honestly think if the Chargers finish like I think they're going to finish this year, which is 9-8, you need to get rid of the coach. He needs to be gone. You got to find somebody else who's going to find a way to do this because you got enough talent offensively. Your defense. Khalil Mack had 6 sacks. What more do you want out of your defense? But you still struggled, and you still make some stupid fourth down call decisions that don't need to be made. Let's go for it on fourth down. That's what the analytics say. Stop it. You don't need to always go by, it's 4th and 1, and they say we got a 60% chance. Yeah, I got a 40% chance of failure, too, and you're going to turn the ball over where you don't need to turn the ball over.
Yeah, the analytics suck sometimes.
Just be smart. Anyway, I don't know.
Also, I see so many people do this, we're going to go for it on fourth down, and then they do the most predictable play.
Yeah, 4th and 1 is a terrible call.
An I-form halfback handoff on fourth down is a play nobody should run anymore. They shouldn't.
I don't even think quarterback sneaks are as effective as you think they are. I mean, they're good.
Unless you're Philadelphia,
right?
At which point they're close to 96% effective this season.
Which is amazing. I just don't know how. It's got to be the offensive line, right? Because your quarterback's not doing that.
You'd think so, right?
Right.
You'd really think so. But Jalen Hurts, I remember they used to post footage of him, all these social media accounts post footage of him, squatting 600 pounds.
Right.
And he was and it's widely known he's that guy who's in the gym before everyone, he's in the gym after everyone. He is a true hard worker. And I started thinking about that and I go, maybe it isn't that much, because I watched some of these tush pushes, or as it's been renamed by Philadelphia, the brotherly shove, which I think is a great name.
I like that.
Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah.
But I watched some of these plays, and I see that he's got the first down just about before somebody starts shoving on him. So he's really close a lot before he even gets a shove.
Huh.
So I don't know. I kind of think it would still work. I think it's a combination of good offensive line, good discipline, and then a strong-legged quarterback who kind of knows where to take the ball and what to do with it. And so I kind of think with that in mind, you kind of got to do it. I think you have to take your chances getting a penalty on that play. Like you need to line up over slightly between the center and the guard, and you need to try and jump it. And you need to take your chances popping Jalen Hurts on an encroachment.
I do like
see if you can get it.
I do like Brotherly Shove. That's a great name.
Yeah, it was because J.J. Watt said that the tush push was a weird name. And so the Philadelphia, the Eagles responded, say after consideration, we have renamed it the Brotherly Shove.
Oh my gosh. Let's go back to the trivia question. Do you remember the trivia question? Because I don't. Because I tried to ask it and it was all sounded like garbage.
Worst record, still made the World Series. Still won the World Series?
The lowest amount of regular season wins that won the World Series. That was the question.
And you asked what the number was.
Yeah, what's the number? So they play 162 games. What's the lowest amount, and who did it, I guess is the question, of wins for a team to ever win the World Series?
Well, I'm going to guess the Yankees.
Okay. That's always a good guess.
I mean, they've been to a ton of them, so that's literally the only reason I'm guessing them. The Dodgers would have been a good also guess. But I'm going to guess the Yankees. Say 74 wins?
So 74 wins has never made the playoffs since the wild card era, which is 94. But no. The answer is officially the Minnesota Twins. The 87 Minnesota Twins
really
won 85 games. They were 85-77 in the regular season, 8 games above 500, and then they went to the World Series and beat the Braves. That was the worst the first year. They were the first team to do it. They were the worst in the American League the year before, and then they won.
Huh.
They won the whole thing. 85-77. So there were a couple of teams in the playoffs this year that had 84 wins. It was the Marlins, who just got run out, and the Diamondbacks, who now won 2 games and are moving on after getting rid of the Brewers. So the Diamondbacks have a chance to be the team with the least amount of wins. There's still a possibility for them to win the World Series. Anyway, there's that. Minnesota Twins, 1987. Burt Blyleven, Kent Hrbek, Dan Gladden, Kirby Puckett. I can't name them all, but there was a bunch of players. So there you go. There's your baseball history for the day. 85 wins.
I'm reading this because I Googled it afterward.
Right.
And it's talking about the 2006 World Series. So Cardinals versus Detroit. Cardinals beat Detroit 4-1. It says the Cardinals finished the regular season 83-78. This is the second worst record ever for a league champion. The New York Mets in 1973 were 82-79. And the worst record ever for a World Series champion. The Cardinals at 83-78 regular season.
Yeah, they didn't play all 162 games. They only played 161.
Previously, the Minnesota Twins finished 85-77 and defeated that year's Cardinals team in the 87 World Series. So, interesting.
Yeah, interesting. That's a good question. Percentage-wise, are they better?
It might be, 83-78 versus 85-77. 2 less wins, 1 more loss.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So I don't know. I don't know how that shakes out exactly. 5-16. They're 5-16.
Well, it's interesting because they didn't show that. That didn't come up in my search. So
dun dun dun.
Interesting.
Stat correction of the day.
There you go. Huh. I wonder why they didn't come up.
I Googled Minnesota Twins losses regular season World Series. That's what I Googled, the phrasing. And first thing that popped up, it says the Cardinals finished the regular season. Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. No.
Interesting.
Regardless, though, that's not a lot of wins.
No, you're barely 500. But like I said earlier, all you got to do is get in the playoffs. If you just get in, then it doesn't matter. You can win.
So right? has there ever been anybody who's played for the World Series with a sub 500?
No. Okay. I looked that up. No.
Fair enough.
I'm not in modern baseball anyway. I mean, there may have been way back in like 1910 or something, but no.
Yeah, but there's only like 30 games that year.
I don't know how many. Yeah, they've been playing lots of games since right when they started. I don't know why, but anyway. All right. Well, that's all we got.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, actually, I sent you a super cool picture
You
of
did.
Dan Lanning standing on the sideline of the Ducks game versus Colorado, and he's got these awesome, or not, I don't think that's against Colorado. That might be against Texas Tech. I'm not sure. He's got these awesome Nike Air Max ones on,
I see him.
and with an apple green on
Yeah,
them. They're
I like 'em.
freaking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so I want to gripe about how the fact that I can't ever get these damn things, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how Nike thinks it is not in their best interest to put these things out to the world because people will eat them up.
Well, they will.
Absolutely eat them up. So there's no sense in withholding them. You know, I just want apple green stuff, man. More apple green is better.
Maybe that's what. Here, let's show everybody. Maybe that's what. Here, there they are.
There they are.
Maybe that's what. Maybe that's what Nike. Maybe they're just trying to make them exclusive. You know what I mean? These are exclusive shoes to. You know, I get
do
it.
that a lot.
Yeah, but you know, there's some things that I'd like to have in life, and those aren't one of them, by the way. One of them is like I want the Oregon Duck hat that's red with the O on it. The white O that the signal callers have on the sideline. You know, that's blue with the O on it.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. You go on to bsnsports.com. You can order a hat in any color, generic Nike, whatever hat. Hold on.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna do what they do, which is they're gonna take it to their person with like a patch, like not like a patch, but like with like the embroidery thing.
Right.
And they're gonna have it put on.
Sure.
So you can order the embroidered O, the white O.
Yeah.
And you can buy the hat, and you can do it the exact same way that they do it. Take it to your local, you know, seamstress and have her put the hat on there, or have her put the logo on there, and you have exactly what they have. Portland State had sets of hats, and ours were actually heat pressed, but they were blue, yellow, and red, because it was a different material. But it's not like some crazy, unique, hard thing to get. You order the logo, the embroidered patch, or the heat press, and then you take it to a seamstress or you do it yourself.
Yeah, I hear you.
But you want one of the ones from the actual team.
Right. That'd be nice. Yeah, I just
signed by Dan Lanning.
You see him on the sideline of every game. You see not just the Duck games. Every team has them, right? Because there's a guy with a blue and a green and a red hat, right? And they're doing different signals, right? And it's a matter of which guy you're supposed to be looking at, right? Because they're all right next to each other, and that's a way of deception for the other team.
And most of the time, you're not looking at any of them,
right? And maybe not. It might be the damn boards, the reader board things, or it might be who knows what, right?
Did you hear? So Mario Cristobal did an interview, and he said that the boards he was taught during his time at Oregon and during his time while he's using them at Oregon, the boards don't mean anything.
They're
complete misdirection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chip said that he used the boards for quote a couple years,
right?
But he was there for 4 years, or 3 years, something like that. And it's like you used them all years. Which years did you not count?
Right. And I love that. I mean, I love the fact that that's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. You see these teams put out those like big black banner thingies to block signals, and I'm like, oh, come on.
What it is to do is to block people behind you, like from the visiting team booth,
right?
From seeing
it,
or to put a frame if you're like if you got the crowd too low,
right?
Yeah, to put a frame so that way you
can
not
see
get distracted
better.
by people in the crowd. Yeah.
And I get it. I understand why they do it, but it's weird. I mean, it's one of those things where there's so much you don't even think about that goes on in a football game, right?
Yeah.
How do you get the signals in, right? And there's 7 guys over there doing different motions, and it all looks like, what are you talking about? But
but really they're looking at somebody
completely
different.
Yeah, somebody completely different. But yeah, I like it. I like that idea of it. I like the weird colored things, that are not just normal. So if you have a red polo shirt that has an Oregon O on it, that's awesome looking, right?
Yeah.
Because you just don't see that very often. So
I know at Tennessee they were green is their big color on the sideline.
Right.
Like, so I think this year they have a couple colors, but like in the past years, you'd always see somebody wearing like an Oregon apple green in the middle of their sideline.
Yeah.
And it was always very out of place and very funny. I know when I was at Portland State, we had 2 signal callers, 2 people, one other coach signal caller, and then the real person who sometimes was a player, sometimes was a coach. Gotcha. And sometimes there were no signals, and it was all like it was like a simple like number, and they knew what the number meant. They knew what it was connected to.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, it was really weird. A lot. I feel like half the crap you see on the sideline is just misleading.
I like it. All right. Well, that's all we got for the day. So we are going to be back. You know what? One of the things I got to learn to do is
Press the button.
get some outro music. Yeah, we're on YouTube every week, just about every week. This is episode 125, by the way. We've been doing this a long time, and we've got. I don't know about this song. This one's a little weird. But
I like this one.
we're on YouTube every week, just about, and you can catch us on lambsports.com. You can check out the website. If you go on Facebook, you can just Google Lambs or just type in Lamb Sports or Best Lamb Sports Show, and it will come up with all of the shows. You can go to our page. You can see the past shows on there if you missed something. We want to thank the NCAA, the NFL, WNBA, Major League Baseball, CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox Sports, all of the above, and ESPN for all of the scores and stats and highlights and all those kind of things. But we'll be back next week. We got Formula One to talk about next week. We've got more college football. It's a bye week for Oregon, so we got a lot of stuff that's going to set up some games for later. NFL is interesting because we still don't know anything about anybody. We'll talk about all that next week and more. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week.